At an urgent Waitangi Tribunal hearing this week, the proposed regulatory standards bill was labelled inappropriate, dangerous and raising serious concerns about constitutional overreach. The tribunal findings were released just this Friday. Joining me now to unpack what it all means, lawyer Tania Waikato, and via Zoom, Dr. Carwyn Jones and mihi ana kia kōrua, tēnā kōrua. Dr. Carwyn, what is the regulatory standards bill and how does it relate to the treaty principles bill?
Oh, tēnā koe, tēnā tātou. So the Regulatory Standards Bill, the intent of it is really to have all law conform to a particular set of criteria. Now, the set of criteria that are included in the bill, all legislation going forward, and indeed all existing legislation, needs to be assessed according to this particular selective group of criteria. And the difficulty is that the criteria is a very limited set of principles, and so it is very much focused on things to do with protection of property rights and wealth, and doesn't include things like environmental protections, any requirements for equity, or indeed any protections for te tiriti. And so all of those rights are weakened by this bill and the requirement or the assessments that will be required in terms of all law trying to conform with this. And so where we see the link with the Treaty Principles Bill is that the Regulatory Standards Bill would provide a means to weaken those tiriti protections and in fact remove the legal meaning and effect of te tiriti from our law, which is what the Treaty Principles Bill was all about. And so I think I see the Regulatory Standards Bill really as finishing off the work that was started by the Treaty Principles Bill and ultimately rejected.
Ka pai tēnā whakamārama. So Tania, the treaty's not in the conversation about the Regulatory Standards Bill. Is that the only thing that we as Māori should be concerned about, or is it much bigger than that?
It's much bigger than that. So as Carwyn's just said, one of the core issues and why Māori should be concerned with this piece of legislation is this is the Treaty Principles Bill version 2.0. There's literally one of the principles that was in the Treaty Principles Bill copied and pasted and put into the Regulatory Standards Bill. So over here we had all of these principles in the Treaty Principles Bill which were going to undermine te tiriti, copy and paste it, put it over here, dress it up in complex legal language that nobody understands, make it sound really boring, not consult with anyone, and then try and shove it through. And the one thing that Te Iwi Māori should be really concerned about is that David Seymour is the architect of this bill. David Seymour is the Minister of Regulation. He's got his own ministry that's been created for the purposes of enforcing this particular piece of legislation when it comes through. And the power that this